Awakening gameplay from the beta weekend. Good day, Dune dwellers. For those of you interested in Dune Awakening but haven't purchased it yet, here is a rundown of the game from what I learned during the beta weekend, so you can make an enlightened decision and get some starter tips and tricks. Firstly, if you do not know about this game yet, it is an MMO survival crafter developed by Funcom, set in the world of the Dune series, based loosely on the books and films. We will be touching up on some of the basic lore and storyline in just a sec, but primarily this game entails plenty of trekking through the deserts, crafting gear to survive harsh conditions, designing a base, and developing your skills to confront your enemies. As for the storyline, I mentioned that it loosely follows the Dune series storyline, and this is why. Dune Awakening is set in an alternative timeline. One where, if you know the tale, Paul Atreides was never born, but Jessica, his mother, bears a daughter, as the Bene Gesserit sisterhood would have her do. This one small change unfolds multiple changes to the various factions, the power struggles, and more. But there are two main changes that we will focus on. One, with Paul out the picture, we have an opening for a new hero. In other words, you and your fellow gamer friends. And secondly, is that the Fremen have all been eradicated. Or so we are to believe, which commences your first task, to find the Fremen. Time for some gameplay. Just as a disclaimer, all this footage and knowledge is from what I experienced during the beta weekend. So firstly, I sadly did not get to cover everything. And obviously, with any product still in the works, it is subject to change slightly. But I think the core infrastructure will remain fairly unaltered. Dune does allow for character customization, but I did cover this in a previous video, so if you'd like to see more on this, I have linked it down below. Unfortunately, I did not get to experience much of the MMO aspect, as it was in beta, apart from occasionally running into another player, mistaking each other for an enemy, and thus trying to pulverize them for their blood. Only to slink away mortified, after discerning it was no enemy of mine. But Funcom has touched on some key features that they will be incorporating, from co-op to competitive PvP, guilds, and more. Two of the facets that perked my attention was firstly the guild warfare held in the deep desert, where different guilds can go head-to-head for territory and resources. And the second was the power play-like interaction held in the Landsraad. In the Landsraad, each guild can pursue activities and participate in elections to gain influence, and potentially have the power to alter server rules, basically rendering them the rulers of the land. Regrettably, I do not have recordings of this, so I too am looking forward to seeing this firsthand. As this is a survival crafter too, let's break down what you can create and what you have to survive through the dry deserts of Arrakis. Like with most crafters, you can create a base that you can allow to share with friends, guild members, and even strangers, as well as the usual crafting and refinement stations, and some not so common ones. But your first most handy tool will possibly be your extractor, as without it, you can't do much. I was slightly disappointed with the designs, as I was hoping for a more rustic Fremen feel that can be seen in the old films. But a base is a base, and I will probably spend more time exploring anyway. There are some unique instruments and machinery in this game too, but I will touch on those in just a second when we consider survival. There are many factors to bear in mind whilst traversing Arrakis. First and foremost, Arrakis is a desert. It is hot, it is dry, And not like any normal Earth desert heat, mind you. This desert can swallow you up and spit out your bones in a matter of minutes. So staving off heat and dehydration is a priority of utmost importance. Here are a few survival skills I learned whilst playing. 1. Stick to the shadows. 2. Make yourself a still suit ASAP. 3. Find shrubs. Shrubs have water. Shrubs are your friend. 4. Craft a blood extractor when possible, blood sacks for storing, and a blood purifier to turn that blood sacrifice into water. Horrifying, yes, but necessary in this barren wasteland? Also yes. Not to mention that blood purification is a huge part of the Fremen lore. Speaking of being swallowed whole, have you seen the sandworms yet? I have. I got eaten by them twice. And let me tell you, despite how absolutely magnificently terrifying it was, I lost everything on me, which was far, far worse. I lost my weapons, my sandbike, my resources, and I lost my still suit. Yes, I was running around the desert in my underwear with nothing to protect myself from enemies, worms, or even the sun. Seriously, I do not advise this. So, to aid you in navigating the dunes safely, numero uno, sandworms roam the open dunes. So stick to the edges of rock formations as much as possible. Do not go as the crow flies. Whilst roaming the open areas, keep quiet. Do not go kamikaze and open fire. And watch the worm vibrations. If those vibrations turn orange, it is time to head for high, hard, rocky land. Because if they turn red, you're most likely dead. If you are traveling via sandbike, they are noisy, so short stints are recommended along the open desert. Overall, just shh and short stints, shh and short stints. In addition, keeping old equipment and gear at your base when you upgrade will come in use, if by any chance you do lose your current ones. In the beginning, in the Haga Basin, the sandworms and patrol ships are not such a threat, as Funcom has divided the desert into different zones, each with scaling difficulty. Alas, I did not get to inspect much of this, but I did see a massive change heading into the second zone. The sandworms were noticeably more alert, and there were additional patrols roaming the skies. Besides scaling, there are also different types of zones, from PvP to social hubs, etc. So I am excited to see the variety they have implemented into this MMO. Lastly, before we head off to wait eagerly for Dune Awakening to release, we should cover classes, skills, and abilities. I didn't get to dabble much with the different classes and their equivalent skills, but there are 4: the Swords Master, the Trooper, the Mentat, and the Bene Gesserit. I chose the Bene Gesserit for my playthrough, so let's start with that. The Bene Gesserit skills focus around manipulation and physical mastery with the ability to bend the minds of others to your will. At the beginning, in action, you are able to force an enemy to walk towards you or stop attacking in their tracks, basically hindering them for a short period so that you may take the upper hand. The Swords Master is per usual a close quarter aggressive class, so if you like to get up close and personal, this might be up your alley. The majority of the Swords Master's abilities in the skill tree revolve around enhancing melee damage and increasing defense. For instance, deflection allows for a defense stance that reflects attacks and prepares for a counter, whilst Eye of the Storm is a spinning attack that can hit multiple enemies at once. Recon and strategy is the Mentat's game, focusing on stealth and ranged attacks. This class incorporates a lot of tools and strategic planning, from drones that seek out enemies to shields to increased accuracy for assassination techniques, etc. The Trooper is your standard gunsman with perks. Abilities include a lot of grenades, like a lot. Explosives and gun enhancements. But one ability that really caught my eye was the gravity grenade. This skill pulls the enemies into a central point, allowing you to do a ton of damage on all of them all at once. Like with most class-based games, you do have the option to add other class skill trees to yours, allowing for more complex builds. However, it is not this that I found intriguing. What made this truly special and unique was how you acquired these second, third, and fourth skill trees. In Dune Awakening, in order to further your knowledge in other areas, you have to seek out specific mentors. Each mentor will grant you with a task that on completion will open up their particular skill tree. This made sense to me, as with any trade, skill, or craft, it has to be learnt. And what better way to do it than with a mentor? Now, I know there is still a desert load of information on this stunner of an MMO to cover, but it is just too much to jam into one video, so the rest will have to be for future content. Needless to say, I hope that this gave you some better insight as to whether this is a game you will love or not. Either way, I would like to hear your thoughts or any questions down in the comments below. The spice is life. Soxy Rabbit, roaming off.